Welcome back. We are continuing this wonderful day, the Global Marketing Day. And as you remember, my name is Fernando Angulo, Head of Communication at Semrush. We have a lot of great content today. So you are really lucky to be there because you are consuming really powerful content. And today we will have even more. We're half of the way here in the London studios. Next is going to be New York. Yes, New York starting in just a couple of minutes, hours, nobody knows. So let's start with our session right now. We're going to be talking with different guest experts, and our main presenter today, our main speaker is Daniel Morehead, Senior SEO Analyst at BBC. Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
It's good to have you here. So Daniel works across various products, such as educational platforms.
Yep.
Beta Size, tell us about it.
So Bite Size is like a revision study resource for students. So it's a huge education platform. Like I used it when I was at school, and it's just continued to evolve. So,
well, as BBC is one of the world's largest content producers, search engine optimization is a unique challenge for you guys. Yeah. So Daniel will take us on a journey based on search intent for varied audiences. That's going to be really interesting. And for commenting and as a part of the panel of the discussion, we have here Piperis Filippaios, Director of Digital Beans.
Hi.
Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
And we have Charles Meaden, founder of Digital Nation.
Good afternoon.
Good to have you here. So let's start here with your presentation.
Yep.
Discussion.
Sure. Yeah. So today I'm going to be talking about search intent and how we analyse that internally at the BBC. So first, just a bit of a background about what I work on. So I'm a SEO analyst at the BBC, and I'm based in the home department, and it's a lot of different products there. So you've got the likes of food, programs, ideas, free and bite size. They're the primary products that I work across. But there are a lot of moving parts to consider when implementing SEO on enterprise level sites. But these issues can be scaled to any size if there is technical debt or some form of CMS restrictions. So finding out what is and isn't possible is always a key part of SEO because we can all point out issues, but it's another thing to actually solve them. And SEO within the BBC is a collaborative discipline across multiple departments. So I personally sit within the design and engineering team, where all the tech leads and developers are. But obviously, SEO is heavily reliant on working with editorial staff, and you might be in the marketing department in other agencies or businesses. So before we look at search intents, it's important to consider the various reasons why we're so reliant on search engines. So what do we use them for? And there are three main groups which we can typically associate with most types of search queries. So probably the most popular reason why we'd search is because we want to know something. So we call this an informational search type. So what pages on your site fit an informational search query? So for us, we've got news. You might want to get the latest on political situations. On sport, you might want to follow your team. Bite size, it's great for studying for exams. Programs, you might want to know when a show's coming on, or weather, you might just want to know what you should wear today and tomorrow. Or for navigational types of searches, you might need to get somewhere. So this could be as simple as looking up a restaurant on Google Maps when you're out in a different city, or booking flights through an OTA. So this isn't as big a search driver for the BBC, but for bricks and mortar stores, it's a huge part of local SEO. And then we move on to transactional terms. So these aren't necessarily commerce related, but they want to interact with some form of content which they've sought out. So you might want to internally wish to label these and categorize them differently, but these three seem to work for us. So for us, if you want to do something, you're not going to buy a product because we don't sell anything, but there's something that you want to do on the site. So it might be you want to play a game, you might want to watch a TV show, you might want to listen to the radio. So if you're searching for BBC Food, maybe you want to learn to cook, iPlayer to watch a show. That's kind of a transactional search query for us. If you're searching for the Peter Crouch podcast, there's not too much ambiguity about that. You know, you want to listen to the show, but for some other queries, it can be quite different. So that's what we're going to look at now. So here we'll look at how we can identify the search intent around these 3 different groups. And it's so important to actually analyze the SERPs, so your search engine results pages. And I can't emphasize that enough. So check what the search engines are actually providing for certain queries and analyze what they believe to be the most relevant content answers for that search term. And then you need to ask if you agree with it, and if not, what else can you provide? So here we're looking at the search query Doctor Who, and the first results there for subscription services and paid videos. So that's implying that people might want to actually watch it, because that's right at the top of the SERPs. And next we have top stories from news publications. We've got the programs page, which is our top results. We've got Twitter, and the knowledge graph is filled with relevant info about the show, and also the TV guide for when is it on next. So this is the programs page for Doctor Who, which is our top ranking page. So the programs page itself can serve multiple search intentions, and that's why we're happy to send most of our program branded traffic here. But we're currently doing a big internal research piece about whether we want that to continue or if it should be, say, iPlayer, which is gaining the clicks. So if you're searching for Doctor Who, you might be looking up the cast list, you might want to see who's playing the latest Doctor or the companions, or you might actually want to watch the show. So that's where we need to look at KPIs at a cross-product level. So if all the traffic's landing on this /programs page, but then the users are clicking through and viewing the show in iPlayer, the iPlayer team might not necessarily be counting that as an organic visit. So that's where we need to look at attribution. So of course, it's a couple of clicks away for the user to complete their action that their search intent was driving. So we need to decide, is this the actual right page for that term? And here we'll look at Bing's results, and you can see it's a similar knowledge graph. You've got related sites and ratings and relevant show info. And again, it's the programs page, which is the main ranking result, with site links to some of the rich content that we've hosted within the programs section. But if we look at a different brand term, what do users want when they search for Danger Mouse? So this is different brand to brand, show to show, and this is a children's brand. So we've got a lot more games, we've got a lot more interactive content because this is CBBC. So there's various types of content available across different products, but we're all on the same domain. And this is a great piece of research which Andy McGowan internally at the BBC has been doing around CBBC shows. So here he's been looking at Jamie Johnson and that's branded children's TV shows. So the shows section, which is basically the programs page for kids shows, actually has more than double bounce rates than the iPlayer ranking, but iPlayer is actually underneath. So that's from that we can infer that for that particular term, users actually want to watch the show because they're clicking on Jamie Johnson and then they're leaving. And we need to consider bounce rate as a huge search intent factor because they've clicked on your search results, they wanted to come to your site for this content, but is that content on the page not fulfilling their needs? So that's where we need to look at bounce rate. So looking across different children's brands here, we can see that the iPlayer page for these particular shows is severely reduced when we compare it to the shows page. So from this, we're identifying the search intent. They actually want to watch it. So how can we make it easier for these users to actually watch the shows? And the program section itself is an absolute behemoth. So every show across radio and TV is uploaded. And as I've said, different brands and programs will have different intents, but they could even have a different search intent depending on the time of the day. So if you're searching for Strictly Come Dancing on a Saturday morning, you might want to know when it's on in the evening, what times it actually start. But if you're searching for Strictly Come Dancing on Saturday evening when the show's on, you might want to actually vote on the show because we've got online polls. You want your couple to win. So the search intent could vary for various times of the day, various points of the week. So if you're searching for that, it's important that we meet all of these needs, and that's where these rich pages come into play. And the program section it's updated in real time. So yes, some SEO tools are very difficult to use on a large enterprise resource like this. But then we'll look at how do we set KPIs to measure the search intent, because it's a huge multi-parameter multi-product, multi-team operation. So first, you need to consider who is responsible for actually reporting on the KPIs. So if you're in agency or in-house, you might be in the marketing team. You might want to get data analysts involved if you have them in-house. And you probably need some senior stakeholders as well. So it's a collaborative approach to get these KPIs and get everyone swimming in the same direction. And historic reporting for SEO might not tell you the same story. So you might be ranking #1, but it's not fulfilling the user's search intent. So is that the page that you want users to land on? And if not, what can we do about it? So looking at typical KPIs, which everyone uses, so on commerce pages, you might be looking at your revenue and the number of transactions. On blog or content pages, you're looking at user registrations. Video content, so on iPlay, you might be looking at completions. But for us, it's really about engagement and reach, because we don't sell anything, we just want people to consume our content. So getting the site in front of as many people as possible and retaining those users, getting them to revisit the site. And it's showing the breadth of content which the BBC has to offer. It's not just news, it's sport, it's TV, it's radio, it's bite-sized for helping students pass exams, it's food for helping people learn to cook or learn new recipes. So it's getting the various types of content in front of people. And there's no one-size-fits-all approach for setting KPIs. So take this BBC food page here. Users could bounce after viewing a recipe, but it's not necessarily a bad thing because they're only viewing one page in this case. They might have had their search intent fulfilled from this page. So you need to consider the type of content and the search intent which has led them to the page. And that's where you need to consider different KPIs for different pieces of content and different products. And if we look at this attribution example, this is another thing which you need to consider when you're setting your KPIs. So if a user has searched for Doctor Who, they've clicked on the programs page, but then from there, they've clicked on the iPlayer link. And that's internally in our analytics platform, it's classified as a portal site, but we know it's an organic click which has landed on programs. So we need to follow the path back across their journey so we can see that it's organic which has driven that click. So working out that kind of multi-attribution model when you're setting your KPIs. And then looking at different techniques which we can utilize to make sure that the most relevant page is ranking for these terms. So we really need to consider the user journey, and this, again, is where I emphasize that we need to closer look at the search results. So if you click on a result from search pages and the contents of the page are not what you're expecting, that could lead to users becoming frustrated, leaving, or they might even go to a competitor. So if you step into that user journey, is this page fulfilling their needs? Is it what you'd expect? And some simple tips to try and help you get the correct pages ranking if you've got multiple close variants. So obviously don't duplicate your titles and metas, don't cannibalize your keywords, and go as granular with your targeting as you can. And you can use markup where appropriate. So use structured data to enhance your search pages, and that can help you own a greater portion of the SERP's real estate if you're adding your relevant extensions through your markup. So BBC Food only recently introduced star ratings to recipes, but it's basically a necessity in that particular search market. Everyone has star ratings, so we needed to add it. And don't be afraid to canonicalize if you've got close pages and you want to get the correct page ranking. And it's not directive, so they might be ignored, but yeah, experiment, see what works for your site. And this goes without saying that a slower page probably isn't going to rank as well as a quicker one. Use any tools that you can, so Lighthouse, PageSpeed Insights, and just make sure that you're successfully delivering your content because it's an audience that's actively looking for you. So this isn't just good SEO, it's good UX to have a fast site. And again, going full circle, consider the user journey. So ensure that the page matches up with what you're displaying in SERPs. And is the result on the page what the user would expect if they're clicking on your result? So as I say, it's a multi-team, it's across multiple disciplines that you really need to get this collaboration when you're optimizing enterprise sites. And there's different product pages will have different KPIs. Consider the user journey. That's the biggest thing that I can say to to take away when you're analysing search intent. Thanks.
Perfect. Thank you, Daniel, for that presentation. Now we understand, when we all are using BBC, where we are consuming BBC content, now we understand how it was made of. So that was brilliant. And of course, if you have any questions, go directly to globalmarketingday.com and you can just write your question over there for our speaker of our guest panelists. So let's start with Peperis and Charles with our main questions here. How do you change course if your audience needs something else, something different that you are offering? How you can change that course?
Thanks. I mean, in the past, when we've done a lot of content marketing, so in the informative, when users are looking for information, we've gone back, analysed the content, compared it to competitors. So it's perhaps been like 18 months since the content's been generated. And then you look at competitors and they've maybe got better images or they've got a step-by-step in there. And then you just kind of work with the site or the client, if you're agency side, and just push that content forward. So, introduce a video and invest in making the content better based on search intent and what you're seeing at the current time.
So I'd say you need to start, we would always start by looking at what search words have people used. And that might be Search Console data. That might be AdWords. If you're running an AdWords campaign, people are already putting those words in. And then we mash that up also, or possibly Semrush data to get competitive data. And to basically say, right, is the site answering the need, or has the Google SERPs changed? Back to your point, it's looking at the SERPs and saying what's coming up. Because we all know everything's fluid the whole time. Now, one of the things that we do is we do topic classifications, because for some of our bigger clients, we're getting 800,000 keywords out of Search Console alone. And if you give that to someone in a spreadsheet, the first thing they'll say is, what do I do with it? So what we tend to look for is we break it down into 2 and 3 word different ones and say, what was that person's actual user intent? And then we'll stick it with their Adobe data or their Google Analytics data and say, well, are we answering that question? Or do we need to be changing them or taking them to another part of the site? Because we saw last year, Google, for example, stopped dropping people to category pages and started taking from one client to their blog pages for exactly the same search terms. So then it was a question of saying, well, how do you change the existing content? The client said, can we have our category pages back? No, you can't. This is the way that Google has moved. So that then becomes a conversion question. So it's how do you make those pages a lot more salesy?
Interesting. And actually, when you are introducing those KPIs, search intent, how you introduce them, actually?
Well, I guess, like I say, it's multi-discipline, it's multi-team. So for us, it's just about the engagement and getting that reach. So it's trying to enforce that, SEO is so important, but it's not the be-all and end-all for your client. It's not. There are different factors that you need to consider. But getting search on the agenda it can be a challenge sometimes in-house. But I think just reinforcing that. Say, with that example, if someone's searching for Doctor Who and they've gone on programs and gone through to iPlayer, it's getting it in front of iPlayer that is an organic click. So you need to care about this because it's coming through as a portal site and internal linking, but actually, it's through organic. So it's just getting that on the agenda more, I think.
People here are asking, for example, Donald Ont. That's quite a lot of KPI. Which metric is the most important, or are they equally valuable, all of them? So,
can I be the first SEO consultant to say it depends?
Yes, please.
It absolutely.
That was the first time today, I believe.
Was it the first time?
Yes.
Do I get a prize for that? I'll give you an example. We work for a client called the Circulation Foundation, and they do research into 50 circulatory diseases. Now, I have to say, we ran a very successful SEO campaign. We took them from 3,000 to 90,000 over a year, purely because their previous site wasn't particularly SEO optimized. We got two links, one from the Daily Mail, one from the NHS, but they had a 90% bounce rate. Now, in their mind, they said, well, this is terrible. Actually, what we did is to say, well, actually, has the question the person answered been answered on that page? And they had typically 2,000 to 3,000 words on every single medical condition. So what we did is we stepped out of the world of SEO, we put Hotjar on the site, and we said, look, people on average are spending 2 to 3 minutes, and they scroll to the bottom of the page. If you're on an e-commerce site and it's a product page, and the product's out of stock or it's not right, have you moved them on, have they made a transaction? So it really depends on you understanding what is the most effective outcome for your site and for the visitor of that site. Actually, have you answered the question when they arrive at the site?
Perfect. And how you suggest, Piperis, marketers, they need to have access to all this information in order to take better decisions.
Mm-hmm. So what's your question with that then?
Yes. I mean, for search intent, for these KPIs, every single team member in a marketing collective, they need to have access to all these informations?
Yeah, I mean...
It's only a part of analytics, SEO analytics.
Sure. So for us, I would say that if there is information overload, so like you said, you can easily have 800,000 keywords. Not everyone needs to have access to the raw data or to just every bit of data. So I would say having access to the most relevant data for them to carry out their job. So for example, going back to bounce rates, for example, if you look at a bounce rate on a mobile device versus a desktop for the same piece of content, you might notice that actually there's something going on with your CSS or your site, and actually on mobile the content's so far down that people are bouncing. So therefore, if you're going to be speaking to your development team or the person looking after your site, that's the only information they need to know about that particular problem at that moment in time, rather than randomly giving them access to everything in analytics and hoping they find their way around it.
Yeah. So again, we would call it actual analytics. It's delivering to people, and it's on search. We did some work for a company, and they were looking after internal search. Now, what had happened was the woman said, I don't get the failed searches. What she'd actually been given was the big global spreadsheet, and all the failed searches were on tab 41. And nobody ever given it. She said, all I need to do with my job, so we give her every week the top 10 failed searches by category. And that's all she needs to do. Because she doesn't need anything else. She needs to basically put that in, put the synonym, and it's just understanding what's relevant to what. If you're running the sport department, you don't need to care about the product ones. It's how many people arrived on the sport one. Look at the search term. What was the intent? Do you think the page they landed on answered the question? If not, what action can you then take to change the content on the page? Because you understand your domain area. So therefore, when you look at those words, those should start making sense to you.
So we have, this is a comment, and I need to know from you if you agree with this. So first, you need to create natural content for users, and then try to optimize it with keywords. Is that something that is working? First, create original content, and then try to optimize it.
I would go back a step and say, why are you optimizing the content in the first place, and what research you've done to say you need to create that content?
Yeah, I mean, we've so as well as agency side, we also run some e-commerce sites as well. So sometimes in our content creation, that either comes from kind of hardcore SEO research and keyword research, and we go, right, well, people are searching for this and we don't have any content around this, so let's create it. So therefore, the keyword research forms part of the process before the content has even been written. In other content we've got is even our customer services team will say, hey, I've been asked about this X number of times because maybe we've added a new product to the site, but the website's lacking in content and information about that. So then customer service just go, hey, I think we need some of this content, and that content just gets added. We initially don't do any keyword research around that. I mean, the basics, but we don't strategically direct the content. Once the search console data comes in, we'll then revisit that maybe 6 months down the line.
I'll give a quite unique one. So we did some work for the London Fire Brigade, and part of their job is to educate people. And so we took all the search console data, and the word iPhone charger kept on appearing. So what we do is we do a cluster analysis. We say, give me the most popular 2 and 3 words inside each of the keywords, and you start seeing patterns appearing. And iPhone kept on coming up, and people kept on typing in, are iPhone chargers safe? Do iPhone chargers catch fire? Now, what that allowed the copywriter to do was to write a page saying, official iPhone chargers do not catch fire. However, iPhone chargers that you buy at the market for £2.50 and haven't been electrically tested may do. So they were using it internally to build out copy responding to a need.
Yeah, that's the way it needs to be. So thank you very much all for being here. It was a great session, a great talk. Actually, in terms of intent, there's not much information out there about it. Well, there's a lot of information, but people are not talking about this. So we are starting this conversation, globalmarketingday.com. If you have any questions, let's continue the conversation. And thank you, Daniel, Senior SEO Analyst at BBC. Thank you, Piperis, Director of Digital Beans, and Charles. Thank you very much, founder of Digital Nation. Thank you very much for being here. Thank you all for watching this. And now we'll invite our New York studios to join for the next sessions. And of course, we have a lot of great experts at that side of the Atlantic, so we will invite them to join us here. We're still continuing the London transmission, but we're going to be inviting the New York folks here as well. And let's keep the conversation going on the hashtag Global Marketing Day.